Welcome back to Sigulda in Latvia. Hello, good evening and welcome as we get ready for the second and deciding heat. Race 2 of the BMW IBSF Men's Skeleton World Cup for 2020-2021. So we're back at the Sigulda track where last week Martin Viesturs added to his win in February to become a two-time gold medalist here in the last 3 outings. Nikita Tregibov is the other man who has won here, but he didn't look close to a medal last week. It has to be said, he doesn't look wildly close to one this week either. Our world champion, though, Christopher Grote here, does look like he's back on some kind of form, lying in third position after the first of our 2 heats. But he is a full third of a second away from the race leader. In better shape than he was last week, however. As last week, after the first heat, Thomas Viesturs is in the silver medal position. Thomas finished in the silver medal position in February's race, but dropped just out of the medals into 4th spot with a slightly loose second heat last Friday evening. Will lightning strike twice? Well, for Martin Viesturs, it might well do. He has just broken his February track record. One of 3 men to break that record, but because he was the quickest, he is now our race leader heading into the second heat and looking for his second win of the season. Well, for Martins, this would be a 5th World Cup race here. Thomas won 1 and Nikita Tregibov has won 1 and Martins has so far won 2 and looks like he may well win this one, but it would be very intriguing to see just what Thomas Viesturs can produce in the second heat. Behind them, Grote here, 100th of a second ahead of Alexander Trechikov for the bronze medal, and some close races behind. We've got a tie for 6th, we've got a tie for 8th position, and we've got some very tiny gaps right behind them.
54. Now attention for start.
So Italy's Amedeo Bagnis did not start in the first heat. He has been here this week, raced last weekend, has he been here in training, but not able to race today, unfortunately. There's Felix Kaisinger, who took a medal in the silver medal position ahead of Alexander Gassner last week. Kaisinger, though, although he had a good start, it all just came a little bit unstitched down the run. And so Felix has work to do in the second heat, as has become his want over the last few years. And Florian Auer being joined by rookie Alexander Schlintner for Austria this weekend. So 2 Austrian male sliders in the starting lineup. Well, the Viesturs brothers could end up with another 1-2 as they had in February. Our start order, 18 sliders. Sami Kaiser, who made his World Cup debut here last week, will go off first. Mikai Pakianu behind him, Matt Weston, Daniel Romanov, and so on as we get down to the lead group. And within 6/10, we have the top 7 sleds, but there is, as I say, a third of a second gap to third. First of our 18 sleds as we go last to fast in the second and deciding heat here. Sami Kaiser of Switzerland. Kaiser started in the first heat with a 4.89. And it's a 4.94 as the sun has gone. The sun has dropped below the yard arm, the temperature has dropped as well, and that may not necessarily make the start area much quicker. 3 to 4, skates away through there, then heads down through this labyrinth, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then into 7, 8, and 9, and then into the graveyard of time. 10, 11, 12, and 13 and 14. These 5 corners stitched together with some very short transitions. Brings you out onto a long run up to corner 15, big height there. And then over the outrun into corner 16. 270-degree whip around. 51.29 finish. Well, compared to a 52.55 in the first heat, that is a substantial improvement for Samuel Kaiser. Good stuff from him. He will feel a lot happier with that than he did, I think, possibly with the first heat. It all got a little away from him, but if he's going that much quicker, we could well be on track record potential again. And it wasn't just Martin Stucos, there were 3 new track records in the first heat. First led out, Christopher Groothair, the world champion, broke the track record. And then Thomas Stucos beat his time, and Martins beat Thomas. Little skid here, gets it nicely straightened up, trying to use those long levers not to oversteer too much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Samuel Kaiser, our race leader. He heads into the leader's box. Top of the track is Mihai Pacheanu of Romania. Mihai, 21 years old, in his 8th World Cup race. And all summer long with his dad and the bobsleigh team that his dad manages. He is the lightest of the bunch. 4.70 getaway from him. 4.69 in the first heat, so right where he was. And let's see how well he sneaks through 3 to 4. Little square hit. See the athlete being bumped up in the air. You know, I say he's the lightest of the bobsleigh team, but it still takes energy out of the sled to bump an athlete up in the air. 1.74 up. Sammy Kaiser was on his shoulder and very nearly on his back in his first heat, so a big improvement for him. Let's see if Mihai can find a little bit more pace as well. Only the second best speed here. 1:15.3, Kaiser had 1:15.9. Mihai will be in front at the line with a 50.83. And again, a 51.32 for him. So that's half a second quicker. Yeah. Well, a lot of these athletes, this is their 3rd week here. Janine Flock saying after her 2nd victory this morning, she's been here since the 9th of October. So 5 long weeks, 6 long weeks now, training on the track here. Mihai Pacheanu, not so long. There was a training week before last week's race week. And then there was last week and this week as well on ice. A rare opportunity, really, outside of the World Championships, to spend more than 2 or 3 days on any track in any season. So better looking second run from Mihai. Let's see how that compares to the next man up, Matt Weston of Great Britain. And like Sammy Kaiser, had a real wheels falling off moment in his first heat. Now, he finished very strongly last week in 5th position. This is only his 3rd World Cup start. That's the coach shouting off from the top. 4.56, that is a good start. 4.59 in the first heat. He's determined to try and work his way up the order. And given his pace last week, gets nudged away 3 into 4, which means he's late in 5 and 6. Through 7, 8 and 9, there's a little bit of time to steady the ship. Whips out of 10. Toe steering in 11, best speed so far. And if he can put together a good run, he could be in the leader's box for some while. Here's a 2nd off the top half dozen, so he's not going to climb that high up. 1:18.4, decent speed. We'll see, high 90s, maybe 120, hits the wall on the exit, 50.03. Well, that is a 2nd faster and 100th than his first run. Let's take a look at last week. Where were we with Matt? 50.73 in the first heat for Matt Weston last week, and a 50.71. That's a 50.0. The track is quicker this week after 3 weeks of solid action. The race crews have done a fantastic job keeping the track not only alive, but getting better and better. But boom, exactly right, Matt Weston. Well, better to recover from a disappointing first run than the other way round. Nobody wants to let it go if they've had a good first run and just drop down the order. Much better to be climbing back up.
Hi, Alex, miss you.
Again, I say, you know, what am I here? Chopped liver? Next up, Daniel Romanov made his World Cup debut for Russia last week. And the young slider from Moscow, not as young as Matt Weston, but Daniel Romanov in the foothills of his career. Starting in 2016. 4:56 getaway, 4:58 in the first heat. So ties Matt Weston in terms of pace. He was 900ths ahead of the Briton. Again, gets a nudge away in 3. This is the biggest hit, 1200ths up. Nice looking form, but his head is up. Best speed we've seen so far, 92.6, tied with Matt Weston. This is going to be close, isn't it? You can hear the chin piece of the helmet and the toes scratching away. 900ths of a second gap at the start was 900ths. Third best speed. 3 kilometers an hour down on Matt Weston, who was flying here. He goes into the red, it doesn't hit the wall, but nevertheless, 50.4, 3700ths slower than Matt Weston. So he drops the spot. So Great Britain's Matt Weston has started to claw his way back up the order. 23-year-old has the lead, and 26-year-old Daniel Romanoff, face buried there in 14. Now he looks up to see where's the line. Focus where you want to go, and then the sled will hopefully follow. Big early height here in 16, drops almost out of sight. Big second pressure as well. There is our fitness trainer from Moscow. Ronald Alderset next up. 12th fastest start, ended up coming down in 14th place after a bit of a loose first heat. 31-year-old finished in 15th spot last week. This is his 41st World Cup start, 4.70. A couple of hundred slower than his first run. You can find a couple of tidy up moves down the track. Before wasn't too bad. 10th ahead of Matt Weston. A quarter second and more from the first heat. 1500ths up, best speed we've seen so far. It's now that it's really critical to hold it together. Out of 13, not too bad out of 14, little run, still 1400ths up. Second highest speed, but a couple of Ks down on Weston, could be close at the line. Face in the track and across the line, 50.66. So the speeds did not lie. Matt Weston carrying the speed from 14 on down, and it got away from Ronnie. In fact, he drops a couple of spots there because he's 100th behind Daniel Romanoff. So Matt Weston moves up, Daniel Romanoff moves up, and Ronnie Alderset will be no worse than 16th. Again, big height there. I think the track is definitely feeling a lot quicker to these athletes than it did in the first heat. Sled, helmet, mask, and only 2 hands. Comme ci, comme ça, as they say in Switzerland. Well, next up is our World Cup rookie for this season. Matt Weston is the leader after the first 5 sleds. This is Alexander Schlindner from Austria. Newcomer to the World Cup, didn't race here last week. The 22-year-old makes his World Cup debut in the 2nd race of the season, 6th in last year's European Cup. And a 4th place here in Sigulda in January's race was his best result of the season. And the Europa Cup, the America's Cup, are the first tier of international sliding. Above them is the Intercontinental Cup, and then the World Cup at the top. Decent speed, 92.8, second best speed we've seen, behind Matt Weston. Out behind Ronald Alderset and Matt Weston, who are both 93.1. Alexander Schlindner, 2/10 up on the current leader, Matt Weston of Great Britain. Second highest speed. This should see him hold his speed all the way to the line and hold his place. No, 1100s back. 50.52, Matt Weston a 50.03. Now, of course, every sled that comes down now should have a greater advantage than the previous one over Matt Weston. A few flakes of snow coming down. There's a little bit of sleet just before lunchtime today after the women's race, but before the men started. A few flakes of snow won't make much difference, but it does show that the air temperature is dropping. Big height there, and that 12-13 crossover could have been an awful lot smoother. Not bad for the rookie though. He was only a few hundreds behind his teammate Florian Auer, who has a whole heap more experience. More experience too from this man, Mattia Gaspari of Italy. And Mattia starting his 25th World Cup race today. But only his third since February 2017. 472 getaway. Had a long recover from an Achilles injury, long rehab, and a couple of other injuries came along the way. Missed the Pyeongchang Games. Now desperate to get himself back into form, qualify for Beijing. 2100s up. The early lead off Matt Weston shrank, has grown and shrunk again. Second highest speed, Weston 1:18.4. 2 tenths in hand. Only a couple of 100 meters to the line, but the rub on the wall undoes him. 50.49. 2 hundredths behind Matt Weston. Weston clawing his way closer to a top 10 run. Mattia Gaspari just 2 hundredths behind the leader. So 50.49 run. Start 472. Matt Weston still with the fastest run of the heat, 50.03, which is exactly what the tie for 6th place was in the first heat, which gives an indication of perhaps where he could have been with a clean first run. Good to see Mattia back anyway. And hopefully teammate Amadeo Banyas will recover in the next week or two to be fit to race in Innsbruck, where we will join Florian Auer at home. We're not actually going to his house, obviously. Social distancing and all of that, but the next 2 race weekends will be in Innsbruck in mid-December. That will be his home track. 475 in the first heat. 1600s out of the top 10. 475 in the second heat. 4800s in hand over Matt Weston from the first run. Weston starting 2 tenths quicker. That down to 29, now down to 2100s in favour of Florian Auer. Nice smooth style from Flo, but the speed's not there. Only the 4th highest momentum, velocity, 92.7 out of 13. Good run from 14, holds that 2 tenths. 3rd best speed, well, like Gaspari, needs to be clean into 16. Wasn't, was sort of meandering about a bit. What's he got at the line? A big hit on the wall, but he's 800s in front. Well, that could perhaps have been more like 1800s. Like everybody, like almost everybody, comes off this track shaking his head. Again, it's that graveyard section, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then actually the exit of 15 can undo you completely. Here we go. You go uphill, over the outrun, over the little crest and drop down into 16. And then hard into the wall. Look at that, sparks from the metal bunks on the sled. digging through the ice and into the concrete. So a change in the leader's box. Matt Weston offers his congratulations to Alexander Auer. The moon is high in the sky. To Florian Auer, I beg his pardon. He leads from Matt Weston and Mattia Gaspari. 10 to go. So quick pause for station commercials. And we'll have a little commercial of our own. Shall we run through the order for the weekend? Yes, Martin, let's do that. 10 tomorrow morning, 0800 GMT, so same start time as this morning. We will get underway with our women's bobsleigh competition. So the heats are at 10 and at 11:30, 0800 and 09:30 GMT. And then the two-man starts on Saturday afternoon, 3 local, which is 1300 GMT, and 16:30 for Heat 2, which is 14:30. So the times you need to know: start of the women's race tomorrow, 0800 GMT, and the men's 1300 GMT. And then on Sunday, two-man bob again, no four-man on the Sigulda track. And that race, like the Saturday race for the men, starts at 1500 local, 1300 Greenwich Mean Time, which is 13 minus 5, 8. Yeah, 0800 Eastern. So that's not so bad, is it? Could be worse. Could be the women's bob, which is 0300 Eastern. That sounds like a lot. And I'm not sure what the time is in China or in Pyeongchang, where the Korean team are training and the Chinese team are training. But for USA and Canadian audiences in their training centres, then it will be early if they're getting up to watch. And so, night has fallen, as it does so early at this time of year, doesn't it? Go to work in the dark, come home in the dark. That's the winter sliding season for you. But wouldn't have it any other way. At least you get to see some beautiful sunrises, particularly when you're high in the Austrian Alps, here overlooking the city of Innsbruck. I get some great skies there in the morning. We'll be enjoying those in a couple of weeks from now. Ten sleds to go, race 2 of the BMW IBSF Skeleton World Cup. And as we get into our second and deciding heat in the men's competition, Vladislav Hereskevich of the Ukraine in 10th position. 21-year-old finished in 12th place last week. This is his 25th World Cup start already, can't believe it. 475 getaway, 472 in the first heat. And our current race leader is Austria's Florian Auer, who has just overhauled Matt Weston by 0.08 of a second. Weston climbing from 16th to no worse than 11th. After a disappointing first run. Hereskevich, nice, neat, tidy so far. 93.6, best speed we've seen. Now is this quicker ice going to favour him? Really nice looking run from Vladislav Hereskevich. 2400s up. Only the 4th best speed. Just gets the elbow out a little to get the line into 16. Should be the leader at the line. He's got enough. Yes, he does. 50.39. So he will be at least in the top 10. And Vladislav finishing 12th last week. Happier with that. Best result last year, 8th place in La Plagne. And in Sigulda at the end of the year, he was 14th. So since February, 14th. Last week, 12th. Today, no worse than 10th. And that's the progress you want to see. As you get more experience with the track, you want to be able to unlock a few of its secrets, or at the very least, deal with a few of its pitfalls. Vladislav, 13th in last year's World Cup rankings. 14th in the World Championships. So 25 World Cup starts. A week off now from racing at least, to practice one-handed mask application, which isn't the easiest thing in the world, is it? Before we get back to Innsbruck. Silver medalist last week, 9th place after the first heat. It was the other Felix Kaisinger that turned up in Heat 1, wasn't it? Last week he had 2 Heat 2s. This week we have 1 Felix Heat 1. Let's see what he's got for us. 4.50. That'll be the fastest start of the competition. He had the fastest start in the first heat at 4.51. Start record, Zhengyin of China, set in February at 4.47. This is a neat and tidy run from Kaisinger. Really trying hard to keep his form. Little toast here, big skid as a result. Out of 13. Jean takes a little tap. 3/4 of a second up, but only the 6th best speed. Losing speed into 16 as well with a long skid. Could comfortably be in the lead. Oh, big hit on the wall, 3/4 of a second. Well, a couple of errors crept in there, but that was what he needed in the first heat. 49.83 would have left him in 5th place, 300ths of 4th in the first heat. And only 400ths out of the medals. 49.79 was the 3rd fastest run we've had in the competition from his teammate Christopher Groth here. And Felix Kaisinger, silver last week, ahead of Alexander Gassner of Germany, behind Martin Stuckurs. He had a great first run last week and a great second run as well. Long skid there, out of 15 up to 16. And then this hit with the wall, boom. Well, that was an awful lot better. So next up is Great Britain's Craig Thompson, another of our really quick starters. 3rd fastest start in the first heat for Craig at 4.54. 28 years old, 10th World Cup start for him. And he finished in 6th position, just narrowly behind teammate Matt Weston last week. Let's see what he's got. 4.51, goodness me. 400ths off the start record. Little hit from 3 to 4, 100th ahead of Kaisinger. This could be very close. They could both climb the order. Second of our 2 British sliders so far, Craig Thompson. He's not the best placed after the first heat either. Whoa, late. Gets it together for 14, 500ths ahead of Kaisinger. Long skid, this is going to be very close. Second highest speed, only teammate Matt Weston quicker, but it was wild. Has he got enough at the line to take the lead? I don't think so, no. 400ths back, 49.87. That was close. They were tied to the 100th after the first heat. There was nothing between them. After 2 runs down the hill, there are 400ths of a second between them. 4.51 start to Kaisinger's 4.50. But slightly different errors. Out of 14, there's a bit legs akimbo. But it's the exit of 15 as he climbs the hill a little over the outrun. He had a long skid. And that's where the time goes away. And it was worse than Kaisinger. Long, late exit, big skid, straightened up by the wall. And that was the lead gone there, down into 16.
Thanks for watching. Love you all.
Good run, though, for Craig Thompson. Top 2 are 400ths apart, 7/10 ahead of 3rd, and we have 7 to go. Tied for 6th position after the first of our 2 heats, Alexander Gassner and Marcus Wyatt. And because Gassner tied the time, he gets to go first to try and break it. Let's see what last week's bronze medalist can produce. 4.65. 100th quicker than his first heat. Heat into 2 and 3. Little rub into 4. 600ths back. Started slower than Kaisinger. And Craig Thompson, who's in 2nd place. With only 400ths between them, effectively going to beat both or neither. Gassner will now make the lie and slot in between the 2. 200's in it. Best speed from Gassner, but again, too much speed in 15 or not enough control. Too much in 16 is going to hurt. Ooh, 700's in front. Wow, he was really letting it fly. When he comes in, full marks for courage.
Alles noch dran. 65 am Start. 65 am Start.
65 start. Not bad, but the speed, 119.7. I bet it felt every single tenth of a kilometre an hour there as well. Look at this. Spears up to the roof in 15. Can't avoid coming back up, and he's so far down the outlet of the corner. He's actually on the sidewall as he flops off. But boy, that speed. And again, in the ditch going into 16, straight to the roof, down into the gutter, to the roof. I thought he was going to really hit the wall hard here. And he's just by the timing line. Alexander Gassner has the lead after a wild ride. Tied for sixth in the first heat with Alexander Gassner. Great Britain's Marcus Wyatt. So both of them 5700ths off the lead, 500ths off fifth. 2700ths out of the medals. 22nd World Cup start for Marcus Wyatt. He starts 4:51 as well, goodness me. That's as quick as Craig Thompson, and just 100th away from Felix Kaisinger. 1600s up on Alexander Gassner. They were tied after the first heat. They make their speed in different ways. Marcus has it to start with. Gassner works on it further down. Marcus Wyatt can keep the speed. Then we're looking at something. 300s in it. Second best velocity. 118.5 to 119.7 of Gassner, but Gassner was very wild from 15 to 16. He's behind, he's ahead at the line. It had to pay off. He was cleaner where Gassner was sideways. It had to pay off, and it did. Briefly dropped behind because of Gassner's great speed off corner 15, but holding it. Yes. So top six finish guaranteed for Marcus Wyatt. 8th place last week, at least 6th place this week. Has more control going into 15. Still big height. I mean, you're inverted there when you get up to the woodwork. And a tidy, less untidy exit, let's say, than Gassner, and doesn't get the big skid as the sled goes uphill.
There we go.
And that's what keeps the time in his pocket. Alexander Gassner gives him the high five, as does Matt Weston and Craig Thompson. So Marcus Wyatt leads with 5 to go in Sigulda. Top 5, race 2 of the BMW IBSF Men's Skeleton World Cup, Sigulda in Latvia. Nikita Tregibov, 5th of the first heat, the Olympic bronze medalist from Pyeongchang. A silver medalist, correct myself. Started 4:65 in the first heat, 4:65 in the second. And that is 1400 slower than Marcus Wyatt. He had a 500th of a second advantage over the British slider. Second best speed. Tregibov is looking like he's working hard for this. 42nd World Cup start for Nikita Tregibov compared to the 22nd for Marcus Wyatt. Second best speed, a fraction quicker than the Briton, but again, really paddling hard under the surface. It's not happening, is it? It's not. 49.95. Top 5 guaranteed for Marcus Wyatt. Checks notes. 4th place in Innsbruck last season is Marcus's best World Cup result. We are getting close. And where are we going next? Oh, yeah. Well, here again into 15. Look at the feet, little bit of tap dancing as he's getting in. Big height, comes out, gets away without too much of a bump into the straight. But then the sled just meandering, and he's working hard. And Sergei Chudanov, the coach, yeah, seen all he needs to see. Not a great day at the office, I'm afraid, for Nikita Tregibov, our winner here in November 2019. 4 to go. Alexander Tretyakov of Russia, 2014 Olympic champion, world champion, double World Cup champion, and 100th of a second out of his first medal of the season. Started 4:56 in the first heat. How close to a 4:50 does he get? 4:55. He finds another fraction. It's Alexander Tretyakov, one of the most experienced sliders, 122nd World Cup, against Marcus Wyatt, who has done 100 fewer. Tretyakov with the early lead, 2/10 up, but only 4th best pace. And a hit. Going into the graveyard of time, he's wild from 13 to 14, tidies it up, still 1600s in hand. What's the speed like? Only the 6th best speed, and he's off the sled. And he's out of the medals, and he may not even finish in the top 10. Tretyakov likes to run the wild line sometimes. You don't get anything by being conservative. 7th at the moment with 3 to go. It will be a top 10 finish, but not at the end of the top 10 that he was hoping for. Well, Alex really hung it out there, and it just didn't pay. High into 15, right up in the woodwork, early in the turn, comes back down, and centrifugal forces still pushing him, back up, way back up. And he just can't keep the sled under him. I'm hardly surprised, are you? Look at that, he comes off at 90 degrees to the vertical. Well, he doesn't, he comes out at vertical, doesn't he? 90 degrees to the surface of the track. Aye. Maybe race 123 will be better. Well, that means that Marcus Wyatt leads now in Sigulda with 3 to go. So Marcus on a career equaling high right now. But with 3 to go, Christopher Groth here of Germany has not been on the podium. Was not on the podium last week. 4:62 start. So his 2/10 advantage near on over Marcus Wyatt is down to fractions. 800ths of a second. The world champion finished a disastrous and disappointing 11th last week. 500ths ahead, but look at the speed. What speed has he got? Nothing at all, only the 9th best velocity. Teammate Felix Kaisinger is the fastest at that speed, at that point. 400s in it and only the 7th best speed. And a hit on the wall, and he's on the wrong side into 16. He's in the red and he's going to stay there. How far does he drop? Whoa, 5 places. Marcus Wyatt is in the medals for Great Britain. His first ever World Cup medal guaranteed. That is a huge, huge, huge result for Great Britain skeleton, for Marcus Wyatt. And I probably won't translate that for you.
62.
Safe to say that Christopher Groth here, not happy with that run. So big height there, late on. And these transitions, it's just almost instantaneous. He comes out of 14, rocking and a rolling, big bouncing and a sliding around. And out of 15, hits the wall. He hasn't got speed to spare here at all. Only the 7th best speed. He's in the ditch going into 16. And if his coach had a thinks bubble, he would be saying exactly the same word.
Sorry.
Christopher Grote there. Well, Marcus Wyatt, I don't think he seriously believes that he's going to move up another spot, but 4,800s ahead of Marcus Wyatt from the first heat. In the silver medal position, Thomas Dukurs of Latvia. Finished in silver in February's race, slipped out of the top 3 to 4th place last Friday. 4:65 getaway. He looked in such good form in the first heat with a new track record, beaten only by his brother and only by 300s. There are 900s. There are only 900s in it for victory. Thomas Dukurs' only previous win came on this track in World Cup racing. Best speed. I mean, what a story if he could do it again here. What a story that would be. 6,100s up, second best velocity, 119.1. Gassner 119.7 there. Dukurs neat through 16, that's how you do it. Avoids the wall, not quite. 49.55, ties his first run to the 100th of a second. Thomas Dukurs of Latvia leads. Started 4:65, 100th quicker than his first heat, came down 49.55, exactly the same run time to the 100th. Different mistakes, different tiny little changes to deal with the ice as it has changed from the first heat to the second. Don't forget we started heat 1, and he was quite early on. How far down the order was he? It was only our 5th slider, so it was 3:10. It's now nearly 5:30. That's a very different temperature margin. Okay, here we go. Martins Dukurs, our World Cup points leader, looking for his second win this week since last Friday, and his 3rd in 3 consecutive races. Started 4:54 in the first heat, 4:53. Only 3 sliders have gone quicker than that, and he's giving away 15 years to all of them. Oh, look at the speed he's carrying early on. You could hear it. He didn't hit the wall, but that was him rocking on and off the take-ons. 94 kilometers an hour. So he might need a track record again to win this one over his brother. The lead is coming back down. Was 29, it's now only 1800s. 3rd best speed. What an exit though. Look at him out of 15. I don't know how close this is going to get, but it should be goal for Martins Dukurs. It is, and a new track record. 49.45, 100th of a second better than his previous run today. The 4th new track record today, the 2nd for Martins Dukurs, and he has not been beaten in a heat here in the last 2 weeks. He just gets better and better. And unlike a fine wine, you can enjoy him every week. Well, he had a couple of seasons where he went through a bit of a fallow patch. And win number 50 took a while to come. Now he is right back at his absolute best. Yes, he's at home, but he can do this, well, I wouldn't say everywhere, but he has done it everywhere. Let's see what the rest of the season can produce. But I tell you what, put points on the board in the first 2 weekends, it's hard to chase him down. Martins Dukurs does it again. Track record in the first heat, track record in the second heat, and his 2nd gold medal of the season. So confirmation of the result, another Dukurs family 1-2 as we had in February. Marcus Wyatt, a first World Cup medal for him in bronze, ahead of Chegabov, Gassner and Kaisinger. And Craig Thompson for Great Britain in 7th. Matt Weston finally getting up to 12th place after a disappointing first run for him. Rookie Alexander Schlintner for Austria in 14th position. But there are a few athletes who've got a few things to think about. Alexander Chetikov, well, it wasn't a lack of performance. He was pushing it with everything he had to try and get back in the medals. and in the end just came a little unstitched as a result. But Martin's two cores, fast, collected, and just as close to perfection as you're likely to get. And again, if you ever need a video of a track, scroll through and look for his. There aren't too many where you will find better runs. Sometimes they don't get the equipment right, but you rarely see poor driving or anything approaching it. Martin Stucors wins for the third straight race here in Sigulda. And for the second time in 3, it's a family 1-2. And that brings our skeleton fortnight to a conclusion here in Latvia. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be in Innsbruck. Tomorrow morning, we start with the women's bobsleigh, and tomorrow afternoon and Sunday afternoon, the two-man bob. Join us then. Until then, from me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew, it's goodbye for now.